This work session of the Hamilton City School Board of Education will come to order. Mr. Frazier, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Here.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I always get yes and here mixed up, so, oh well. We have Mr. Holbrook.
Yes, I have Mrs. Weisbrod here from Wilson Middle School, and with just continuing our building updates, I'm going to turn this over to Jesse, and we're going to hear about all the good things happening at Wilson Middle School. Jesse?
Hello. I'm going to start my timer.
Jesse?
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity this evening to present to you some great things that are happening at Wilson Middle School. It looks like there's a little hitch in the delay of the giddy up here with the presentation, but being a new administrative team, it was really important to us that we embrace the Wilson students and staff by honoring where they've been, protecting the Wilson way, and empowering them by making some adjustments to some policies and procedures to help us strive for excellence. Building our culture is going to be indicative on how we behave. Culture is not static, it's dynamic. Every day you create your culture by what you think, by what you say, and by what you do. As Ms. Blevins taught me prior to taking on this role, Wilson, at being a middle school, is such an impressionable time for our students' lives. And I am learning both as a middle school principal and a middle school parent. So I get to wear those hats on a daily basis, which is pretty cool. Guys, they're learning how to be a person by watching us and what we model. It's extremely important that we set our expectations high, coach them up, and provide them the supports they need to be successful. Schools are a business of people. We've got some pretty candid shots up here of some of our staff. I stand in front of you tonight honored and proud to work alongside these excellent people each and every day. Tonight is just a small snapshot of our goal to continue to develop positive culture throughout our building. I do have to point out one of my favorite pictures up here. You see them holding the Santa in the pocket, but I know I'm a little time constraint here. I'll save that story for another day, but it's awful funny. It's awful funny. Tonight, you're going to hear from two of the best administrators in the district regarding our PBIS program, our opportunities for students, along with the way we spread community engagement with our Wilson Words of Wisdom. Also joining us are a couple of our absolutely amazing co-teaching teams to discuss their approach to deliver quality instruction utilizing our new EL curriculum. And I'm also excited we have our phenomenal school counselors with us to inform you about an idea they created known as Counselor Corner. We won't cheer, though. We will hold off on the cheers. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ahonen.
Okay. So one of the first things that we did as a new admin team to Wilson is we discussed the behavior matrix that we wanted to have in our building. So on the left-hand side of our slide there, you can see that it talks about being ready, be respectful, and be responsible, which is common language used in all secondary schools. It was not that way in Wilson prior to this year, so we wanted to make sure that we were aligned with the common language of everyone else. One of the things that Jessie does every day is she reminds the students to act at the Wilson way. So the Wilson way involves being honorable, protecting each other, and empowering the students to be the best that they can be. So when teachers catch students doing good or doing good things, they get a ticket that looks just like that one up there. And every Friday, we celebrate these students by doing a drawing for snacks, chips, soda, things like that, that they really buy into. Another thing that we do to recognize our students is 2 students from each team every month are recognized as Student of the Month. So for that, we drive around to their houses, place yard signs in their yards, some of which are still up from last year because the parents are so proud, and as we are too. And then we have a pizza party and give them a Cane's gift certificate. So again, recognizing the good in our students. Finally, one of the things prior to Christmas break is we were looking at some of our data, and I noticed that 3/4 of our students had not received a single tardy to class. So I thought it was really important just to reinforce the good behavior. So we recognized them with a no tardy party, which was just ice cream at lunch. But again, it's just recognizing the good that the students are doing instead of just giving the attention to the misbehaviors. Some of the clubs that we offer at Wilson are the board game club. One of the things I like about that, it was a student idea. It's student-led, student-driven. They meet twice a week in one of our teachers' classrooms. We also have a drama club, And a homework club. The homework club is an opportunity for students twice a week to meet with teachers to either get caught up on missing assignments, to study, to be tutored. But we do offer that twice a week in our media center. We also offer, thanks to Pastor Shack's leadership, 2 hype programs. We have music and boxing that the students are getting their passions, and they also get mentorship through that program. Also, the Y Club. We are able to bus our students to the Central Y to meet up with Garfield students. I believe that is twice a week as well, in which they get to have about an hour of fun game activities, but then they also spend the second hour doing life skill lessons and getting mentorship from people from the Y. So very proud for all of these offerings. Next up in our presentation tonight is 2 pairs of amazing co-teachers. So from 8th grade, we have Carrie Pennington and Ashley Stone. And our 7th grade co-teachers that we brought tonight are Taylor Frank and Sarah Shockey.
I'm going to talk about the EL curriculum. One aspect of the curriculum that we find beneficial is the repetition and modeling that we do with the students. It provides a structure and a routine of consistent modeling of the standards and skills that students are expected to demonstrate. And the curriculum follows an I do, we do, you do format, which means that we as teachers lead the whole class in what our expectations are, and then they're turned on their own to work in groups or pairs or independently to practice those skills, and then we circle back up and review those skills and model them again to clear up any misconceptions so that on the end of unit assessment, they are able to demonstrate hopefully their mastery of what we have discussed. As we work through the standards, there are multiple opportunities for us as teachers to provide feedback to the students, which helps them understand that all work, learning, and performance can be improved. And with the current rigorous college and career-ready standards, we know that students need access to models of work that meet the standards. Not only do students benefit from seeing examples throughout the writing process, they also benefit from seeing a finished product. So we work to provide them specific feedback and exemplar models of the expected outcome because that's a key component to helping the students move toward mastery of the standards.
Through the new curriculum, we are seeing tremendous growth in our students' depth of knowledge. Some things that we are attributing to that are the structure that the program it provides to the students, the routines that they are able to see, but also the increased rigor that we've seen just through the types of questioning that we're asking, the tasks that the students are mastering. We have seen just tremendous growth from them. The questions that we are asking are a gateway to our students' understanding. It's what sparks their curiosity, what piques their critical thinking. We're just asking them to think deeper in this curriculum. Students are actively engaging with meaningful materials through meaningful tasks over extended periods of time. So they have to be able to perform day in and day out when they're coming in small segments so that we're able to see where they are and know where we need to go. We're asking them to be able to analyze, evaluate complex ideas over those periods of time to demonstrate that they're meeting the standards. But while we're doing so, we're able to see at what depth of knowledge they're at. We have students that come into to our classrooms at all different levels. And in a co-teaching classroom, we've seen a huge benefit just being able to support the students through that. We know that students often shut down when they picture things as being too hard or they perceive something as too difficult. And this curriculum and our co-teaching model have allowed us to support them through that and really push them to the next level.
So we know that EL texts are rigorous, which is one of the positive things about it, but we also know our students, and so we have to take what we know about them and let that inform our teaching. So one of the things that we do before we read an EL text is we ask the question, what do we think our students need to know before we read this text to make it more accessible to them, to lay a foundation, to build comprehension? So 2 things we focus on are vocabulary in the text and allusions and references made that are in there. So with vocabulary, we know our students have a limited knowledge of words. It's always an area of focus on the MAP test, and that obviously hurts their comprehension. So we look at a text and we look at those anticipated unknown words and we teach those up front so that way they feel more confident in those words as they're reading. The other thing is allusions and references made in the text. You know, often we take for granted all the experiences and the knowledge that we have when we read a text, but we know a lot of our students, particularly like low SES students, have limited experiences to draw from. So we try to, we have interactive activities before we begin the text to kind of introduce them to those things that maybe they don't know. And then after we read the text and we've done all the modeling and practice and we're ready for the rigorous assessment, we ask the question then, you know, what can we do to this assessment to make it more accessible for our students, particularly our special education population and our struggling readers, because it's a very rigorous assessment. So we do two things. We look at the open-ended questions and we look at the most difficult ones and we make those either multiple choice or matching. So they still have to show understanding of the text, but it kind of alleviates that pressure of them having to put it into their own words. And then the last question of the assessment's always a very long, extended response where they have to write a lot, and the question is always very complex. So we help them interpret that question, reword it, simplify it, so that way they feel more confident in answering it, so we can actually assess them analyzing the text and not just if they can comprehend that question. So I feel like with these small modifications in these supports that our students have been really successful this year, and I think they're really proud of themselves at like the hard work that they've done.
At Wilson, we have enrichment classes for students on IEPs that struggle in both reading, writing, and math. In these classes, our goal is to bridge the gap in their learning. One way we use EL, we use the enrichment classes to help with EL is we'll pre-teach things in enrichment. So mainly vocabulary words or shorter skills that are going to be later taught in their classroom, they can learn in enrichment class. And then when we get into the inclusion classroom, they are able to hear that again and gain some confidence by like, oh, well, we learned that in enrichment and now I'm learning it here in class. I know what that is. So hearing it multiple times really help our kids. And then also at the end of an assessment or a lesson, we will reteach activities or, well, concepts or vocabulary or any skills that seemed very challenging for them. Even after the assessment, we'll still reteach things because we know that these students, even though that assessment is over, they still need that information to be able to improve on and keep continuing. Now you're going to hear from our counselors, Christy Schneider and Linda Milholland.
All right, so one of my favorite things that we do at Wilson is something we came up with last year. It's called Counselor Corner. We go live to the whole student body every Thursday and just sharing lots of good information for them. And Mrs. Snyder's going to go over the things that we do share, but it gives the kids a chance to hear a message all at the same time, so they hear the same message from us. And it also, they're sitting in classrooms with their teachers, so it enables the teachers to hear the message. And so the teachers can support what we are trying to pass along to the students. The teachers will also, when we're live, they'll email us questions. So if the kids have questions while we're going over things, or if we need to clarify something, if we weren't real clear on our message, they'll send us messages so we can, you know, at the moment, just go over, redefine what we're trying to get across to the students. The other thing is we've received great feedback from the students. We've received great feedback from the administration and the teachers. So it's something we're real proud of. And she's going to go over the things that we kind of cover.
All right, so some of the topics that we cover are things like, what does your school look like? We go over credits, we go over transcripts. We find that the more these students hear this vocab, the more it becomes just in their memory and they know what the expectation is. We do College Credit Plus. We do scheduling. What do I need to be successful in high school? Strategies for getting caught up. Lots of students we know will miss school sometimes. But how do I get my work caught up? What do I need to do? We talk about taking those quick wins, getting those quick assignments done that they can get and accomplish quickly, and getting those checked off their bucket list. 10 key steps for middle school success. Being there every day, being on time, those key components. Test taking skills and tips. We find that students come from elementary not really knowing how to study or how to prepare themselves for tests. So going over what that looks like. How to take great notes. We showed them a quick video of what that looked like and kind of walked them through steps, gave them examples of different options of how they could organize themselves, but utilizing what works best for them. 10 things that take zero talent but get zero respect, such as being coachable, being 100% respect. So being coachable, your effort, your energy, all of the things that it takes zero talent, but will get you far in life. We also bring special guests on. So we have interviewed our resource officer. We have brought our art teacher on, Mrs. Burton. We have brought our media specialist, Angel Thompson, on to kind of talk about different things and how they have gotten to where they are professionally. And of course, our leader, Jessie, we have brought her on as well because she has played many roles in our district. So that's Counselor Corner. And now I'm going to hand it over to Tyler.
Thanks, guys. One of the additional new initiatives that we brought to the building this year is what we've called Wilson's Words of Wisdom. So this was kind of created to have the sense of a mini commencement speech address, but also still be student-led interviews. So these are all interactive sit-down sessions with some of our students, just really focused on bringing in community members to our building to experience our Wilson Way, while still also exposing our students to community members, district employees, just different advice and life lessons that people have to offer. So I'll kind of go over a little bit of that with you here. So that's a quick snippet. That's how we introduce all of our words of wisdom. That is like the opening and closing, fun, catchy little beat. So these are just some takeaways here of what kind of our students and staff members have taken away from our guest speakers throughout the course of the first semester. Mr. Holbrook actually was our guinea pig, very first episode here, left us with some good wisdom here about when things get tough, you have a choice to make. You can either grind through it or walk away. And I think, all of the work by everybody in our district, it's very evident that we choose to grind through things on a daily basis for what is best for our staff and our students. So right now I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Weisbrod for some building culture.
One of the cool quotes that I found, it was from actually the Nike movie when Nike was recruiting Michael Jordan and talked about a shoe is just a shoe until somebody steps into it. Guys, I hear and stand in front of you that a building has meaning when these guys right here walk through it. Mr. Holbrook, in your State of Schools address, you mentioned you win with people. I'm here to tell the Board of Education and everybody here listening tonight that you are 100% winning with these people, 100%. They're amazing. Wilson has meaning when they walk through those doors. Guys, we have fun. Not gonna lie, we do. We have fun. But we love what we do. We work hard and smart, but we strive for that excellence each and every day. We're a team, and that's something that we talk about each day, but we are Wilson. We end our school day with a motto. I actually started this at Brookwood and brought it over, so the Brookwood kids are very well versed in this. But we say it well, we say it together as a building. So team, say it with me. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. That's what you get from each one of us each and every day. Thank you.
Jessie and staff, thank you. And I'm always impressed. I say that every time, but you're right. It is about the people and what you do every day to help our community, to help grow our students, and the sacrifices that you make. I just want you to know how much we appreciate it. And you're doing a great job. And thank you so much.
Same. I totally agree. It's always great. This is always one of my favorite parts of these meetings is hearing the updates from the buildings. And definitely Wilson. I love Wilson and coming over and being a part, being able to provide opportunity as well. But you guys are doing a fantastic job. And I love the fact that you guys express that you are having fun with it as well. You know, jobs and stuff, can be tough, any job. But so the fact that you guys enjoy what you do, it shows and it spills over to the building. And the kids will enjoy coming and being a part of what you guys are creating there and the culture. So again, hats off to you guys, and I again appreciate you guys so much.
Jesse, I made a point at the last meeting, pull you aside and tell you what a great job you're doing over there. I live in Highland Park, and over the last couple of years, a lot of complaints about Wilson. I mean, it was a lot, and all I'm getting now is praise, hearing great things. And I made a point last meeting to tell you that, and I want to tell you again, keep it up. You guys are doing an excellent job over there.
I have a comment, unless Mr. Sprague has something here.
I do, but go ahead. You've got the floor.
Okay, well, first of all, Principal Weisbrod, to your entire staff, nicely done on all of your parts. But I want to speak, first of all, to the counselors. I've said this before. The three most influential people I've met in my life was through the Hamilton City School District, one of which was a counselor at then Wilson Junior High School. So, I mean, I appreciate what you do every day. I'm sure you guys are fighting the good battles, but I just want to remind you of how incredibly important it is what you do and the tremendous impact that you can have on young people. 'Cause, I mean, that's certainly what happened to me when I was there. So thank you for what you do, and just remember how important it can be. And Principal Weisbrod, I want to say thank you to you for this wonderful gift. Certainly that was not expected, but I do have one complaint. I got a short and stocky shirt. I specifically requested a tall and slender shirt, but I'll do with this. This works great. But no, that's fine. But and you know, I will have an opportunity to visit your school on Monday. But I would have to agree with you. It looks like you have assembled a great staff. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that, Joe. Anyway, I would just want to thank you guys for all you do. I know how challenging and exhilarating middle school students can be. It's all hormones, as we all know. And it takes a special group that works with middle school kids. I always say you got to be a little crazy to be with middle school. I did it myself, so I know what you're going through. But I love to go with what Joe said. I love what the counselors are doing. Linda, you guys, those are things usually you talk to them in your office or stuff, but broadcasting it to the whole building, that's the first time I've heard that. And I just think what a wonderful way to create language about what their future is going to be, because all that stuff is so murky and they don't always understand, but bringing it into the classroom, that's a great idea. I love it, and I love also bringing community members in and the words of Wilson's words of wisdom. I think you have a wonderful person, the first person out of the gate, Mr. Holbrook. He's got more words of wisdom than anybody I've ever known. And so that is, and he shares that with us all the time. So I just ask him. He'll tell you that he's got more words of wisdom than anyone else. But thank you guys. Thank you for what you do over there. And you're just doing a wonderful job. Just appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Well, I'm not quite sure how to follow that. First of all, you may not know, but half of my teaching career was at middle school or high school. And so I do have an appreciation. Middle school is one of those things. They aren't quite high school kids, but they certainly aren't elementary. And there's a spot in there where you can't treat them like they're 11th graders, but they also aren't 4th graders either. And so it's a little bit of a needle to thread with that. But you guys do a great job over there, Jesse, Scott, Tyler, the rest of your team. We're very proud of Wilson, not only with the results that you get on the state report card and all of that, but just the influence that you have in the community. I don't know if my words were very much a wisdom, so to speak, but I did appreciate going over there. The kids that you had participating in that were great. Tyler, if I remember correctly, we had some technical difficulties with a few things that first thing, but you jumped right in. You showed your versatility and flexibility in providing that, but I just really appreciate being a little bit of a part of it. And I just want to say, continue on the pathway that you're on right now. I think you're on a very good trajectory. And we just need to continue that. And I want to personally and publicly thank all of you. Thank you.
Very nice.
Okay. Next on our agenda, I believe, is Wright is going to give us an update on some conversations we had at the last meeting in regard to substitute teacher administrative guidelines. So Mike?
And looking at the, what we had discussed last time about the non-bachelor substitutes and potentially looking at those students who are enrolled in college in their last couple years, going through our policies and our guidelines, I have provided you, there is in your packet an updated administrative guideline. And one of the things that I know we had talked about was, currently enrolled students, number one, so students working toward an education degree or pursuing a degree in an education-related field. The other thing that we were talking about was obviously we don't really want to kind of highlight freshmen, so or sophomores even. So we're looking at students who have completed at least 50% of the required coursework in the pursuit of that degree. The third bullet point there is they would have to be interviewed by the Office of Human Resources, determined to be acceptable to perform the duties of the substitute and recommended to the Butler County ESC as an acceptable non-bachelor's degree substitute for the district. The fourth thing would be college university students would need to meet requirements set forth by the Butler County ESC. Those do change based on whatever the state requirements are. So right now the state allows this. If for some reason the state came in and made different adjustments, then they would obviously have to meet that. And that's why I thought that was important to have that bulleted point in there. And then the last thing would be, we may restrict them from working in certain buildings and or areas. One of the things we had talked about was, maybe if it's a 19 or 20-year-old student, even though they are in their, third year or have completed 50% of their coursework, we may say we don't really want to limit that person to be in any of the secondary buildings or any of the 9 through 12 buildings. Maybe it would be middle school, maybe it would be elementary school. So I think this has kind of highlighted those things that I took notes on last time. I have spoken to the ESC about this is something that we may be potentially moving forward and looking to do. So they're well aware that this is possibly going to be coming down as well. Any questions or thoughts or
Question,
concerns?
Mr. Wright, while I support this effort, do we have any idea what impact this has had on other local districts? Because I think other districts are doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest district that's been impacted this has been Talawanda. Obviously, I think the location, being right there next to the university is important. In speaking with Mr. Malone, who's their HR director up there, he said, they're seeing, especially specifically on Fridays and days where their subs have typically dropped off, because that's what we do typically see. That's a day that a lot of colleges don't have classes. So that's when they're seeing a lot of these non-bachelor college graduate or college students picking up those assignments. So I will say that they have, Talawanda actually has one of the highest fill rates in the county, and he does attribute some of that to this. I think, again, you look at scale, when you look at staff, we're about 3 times as large as them. So I don't think it's going to have as drastic of an impact here, but I think every little bit, if it's 5 district-wide or if it's 15 district-wide, it's going to certainly help us.
Yes.
I just to give you an example or an idea, last Friday, we had 159 staff absences. So that just gives you an idea that, when we're talking about putting this into perspective, 159 absences is hard to,
Yes.
is hard to fill.
That's interesting, the Friday before 3-day weekend. Huh.
Had a lot of kids out though, too.
Yeah, and I will say we have had some
Yeah.
sickness. I mean, there's been some sickness that's been running through some of our buildings. Some of those are, but I will tell you, I mean, we typically see Fridays, Mondays are, it's kind of an inverted bell curve if you would present it that way. The Mondays and Fridays are obviously higher attendance concerns, and that's kind of across all of our staff as well. This is going to address some of our teaching concerns and substitute concerns, but I will say that, when we look at attendance overall across all of our certified and classified staff, we do have some staff attendance concerns that continue.
I think another thing to consider with this is a bigger picture. And what I mean by that, these are kids that we're actually getting to see interact with our students and possibly be candidates for hire in the future as well. And you don't really get to see that very often when you get these young kids coming in. They got their degree, they got their license, but you haven't really seen them in front of kids. This is an opportunity for maybe us to use it not only as a substitute piece, but as a recruiting piece, as we know the job force is pretty limited right now.
The one additional thing that I actually kind of like about this option and this idea too, that as I've kind of dug into this a little bit is, we vie with other districts for student teachers. I think if we open this up and we have individuals who come in here, let's say maybe during their junior year, and they get a connection with a potential teacher that they might say, oh, I want to be a student teacher, and that teacher's cooperating classroom, it actually might even give us that more of an opportunity where we can look at someone for a 16-week period where a principal can actually go watch them present a lesson, because presenting a lesson as a substitute teacher is going to be very different than if they're prepared as a student teacher to go in and present a lesson, make lesson plans, do assessments, all those types of things. So I do think that if we expose and open up the district for this, it will potentially maybe give us some more student teachers. I will tell you that we take on a high number of student teachers. And Miami thanks us year after year because they're our largest, obviously. We take on just about anybody they request, so.
Mr. Wright, I know last Friday with 159 absences, that was extreme, I hope. And I remember not too long ago, I think you shared with us that as a district, we average around 30 per day. Am I correct in that, or am I misstating that?
We average more closer to 50 or 60 per
50
day.
or 60, okay.
Yeah, and that's when we're just talking about certified substitute staff. I can actually probably pull it up here if you give me just a moment. I will tell you that typically in the winter time, so from about mid-November until end of February, our average absences on Mondays and Fridays are over 100. They're starting to kick back a little bit. Some of those illnesses are starting to kick back. I know that, again, the end of last week, beginning of this week was a little bit of a rough situation, but we're starting to see the absences kind of in the district wide. I think even principals have said, I've been meeting with them on staffing all week, that the attendance is starting to get better for students and staff.
But what I will say in comparison, and I think you have to look at comparisons, I think we do very well with our bus drivers in comparison to other districts that I've spoken to. Now, our staff's razor thin. Don't get me wrong in the fact that we could always use more bus drivers, but their attendance overall this year, and that has been pretty good, and we've been able to improvise when they've been out a little bit, doubling up routes, doing some different things like that. That's really helped us. What else helps us? We don't have a door-to-door bus stop policy. We don't go to every single door of every single kid. We have bus stops, not door-to-door. That makes it a little more efficient.
I just want to thank you guys for the, number one, on the buses. I know that we've, over the past couple of years, tried to do more to recruit bus drivers and stuff. But on this document that you provided, I appreciate you addressing some of the concerns I had. One was, you never know what you're going to get with a college student. You might have a mature one, or you might have one that's not quite ready to be in a classroom by themselves. And also the idea that they are in certain buildings. Not everybody's built to be a high school sub or an elementary. So I appreciate you putting that into to that document.
And I will tell you that we have a lot of discretion in that area, even though we are obviously recruiting our substitutes through the Butler County ESC. We have the ability to go in, our administrators and our HR clerical staff can go in, and we can limit availability pretty much to anyone we want to within any building or within any area.
Okay, thanks.
Is this going to come up for a vote?
It is not necessary to vote on this. This is an administrative guideline. It's not a policy. We really don't have to change language in policy when looking at it. But prior to changing and amending an administrative guideline with this degree of change, we certainly wanted to work through the board on doing that.
How soon do you want to try to to implement this?
We're going to try to implement as soon as possible and see what results we get with that. The return on investment, there's really only an upside with this. There isn't much on the downside with it.
Agreed.
Are there many students at Miami Hamilton that are in is there an education?
Yeah, so they have a full 4-year degree program for
that's
the
what I thought.
PK to 5. That's the only one that they have on the Hamilton campus, yes, that you can get all the way through. But they have expanded so that the majority of students can attend 2.5, 3 years before they would have to transfer to the main campus to complete. And just so you know, the state has changed licensure again. So there's no longer a PK to 5. There's no longer a 4 to 9. There's no longer a 7 to 12. With the state budget that just came in this past year, we're going back to PK to 8, and 6 to 12 will be the new licensure areas. So instead of 3, we're going to have 2 again. So now we're going to have the old 1 to 8, 7 to 12. We're going to have the new or the middle, what I would call the PK to 5, 4 to 9, 7 to 12, and now we're going to have the PK to 8, 6 to 12 licensures kind of spread all across the district. It makes it real fun when we talk about staffing, especially in our upper elementary 4 through 6 area schools, because not everybody's licensed to teach everything, even though they're all in the same school.
If we know when they got their degree, we can probably pinpoint what type of license they
Yeah.
have.
We haven't received a whole lot of guidance on that yet. But what I will tell you, I think what the state is probably moving towards, because right now there is a temporary, I guess you would call it a law or guidance in place that says that anyone who has a licensure area may work 2-year grade bands above or below their license. So for example, if you're 4 through 9, you can actually teach 2 through 11. If you're PK to 5, you can not go lower than PK, but you can actually go up to 7th grade. A lot of this came out during COVID, and they've continued it because of, again, staff shortages and things like that, where they're giving a little bit more flexibility with the licensure.
Okay, good discussion. Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mike, for the
Thank you.
update. I believe next we have Dr. Kopus. I think this is your
Yes, thank you.
line item.
President Baker. Just a few quick comments. It'll take just a moment. The staff forum, the proposed date of that is Wednesday, April the 10th at 5 p.m. And the location is going to be at the high school, either in the community room or the library. Now, we are thinking of inviting somewhere between 30 to 40 people. That may be in flux, but let me give you a few specifics. And Katie, I would welcome you to correct me or add, change, whatever I may misstate here. The HCTA, that we're going to invite the board of directors there. We're going to invite building reps from all schools, and probably in addition to that, also other staff members from the schools. And I believe we were also planning on inviting the reps from all 4 unions. Is that correct, Katie? I think that's correct. So those are the tentative plans. I will have everything finalized and available to the board by our second meeting in March. Now, I mean, of course, I'm going to attend that, and I know Mr. Davidson has expressed some interest in attending. I would suppose if any administrators would like to attend, they're,
Can I just ask a question here?
yes.
It jumped from we weren't going to have a staff forum to all of a sudden you've arranged the staff forum, and there's been no real discussion amongst the board as far as whether we think that it's necessary. I mean, in talking with administration, shouldn't we find out some of the communication that they already do? And I guess I'm just kind of taken back that just all of a sudden we're going to have this staff forum, and I'm not sure that every board member agrees.
I'd be interested in what the agenda is and what the goals of the staff forum is, Joe.
Well, I will have that for you. That hasn't been
Sounds to
finalized.
me like, I'm being honest with you, the horse before the cart. I mean, you've made all the invitations, and it sounds like it's mostly geared toward union membership at the leadership level than anybody else. Is that correct?
Well, actually, both of you are incorrect. President Baker said that we were not going to have a staff forum. I don't ever remember saying that. I've been a proponent of this since day one. And Mr. Sprague, we haven't formally invited anyone yet. Those were the proposed people that we were thinking about inviting.
But again, we haven't really heard what the agenda is or what the goal of such a forum would be.
Well, I can certainly provide that for you in a timely manner if you like, or as President Baker suggested, as a board, we can discuss that.
Yeah, I think, I apologize. I didn't mean, I know that we have discussed it, and I'm not going to say that we didn't say that we would never do this, but I think there was a lot of, we needed a lot of questions answered, and my recollection from the meeting was that I had asked you to come to us, and I believe it was for this meeting, which you have, but not with, more of what the agenda was going to be and what you wanted to discuss, not, okay, we're going to all of a sudden, we've got this scheduled. And I just think that to Mr. Sprague's point, it's a little bit of the cart before the horse.
I'm curious, does it take board authority to have this forum?
Well, I guess my question,
Right to do it if it
well,
wants
but
to
my
do it.
question is, Mr. Davidson, should we not find out from our administrators what kind of communication they're having on a daily basis? Mr. Wright meets with our
I assume that they're having open communications all the time.
Dave, the main thing I was interested in is what's the purpose? What does this look like? What's the purpose of this forum? I mean,
And figuring out
right
what
now,
they
I
already, what's
really
al-
feel that is
what's
is up
already in
the air.
place that they have. Like, what is already in place, so we're not being redundant and starting something that's already existing, and they already have forms of communication as the way they, move and do things. So just making sure that we're not being redundant, and we're not, overstepping and stepping into waters and territories that,
And to that point, Pastor Shack, yeah, I just think that, what do we think we are going to accomplish from this? My fear, and I will tell you what my fear is personally, and having seen this, not in the education world, but in the nonprofit world and even in the private sector, when you start doing, forums, they end up being not very productive. They end up being kind of an arena for people to air their grievances, all those types of things. And I think that we've already got those avenues through a lot of the communication that comes up through administration. And I would ask you, Dr. Kopis, have you talked with the administrators in this building on how they communicate with the staff and the teachers, what forums they use?
No, but I will tell you this, and I think Mr. Holbrook would agree with this. I do know that the superintendent used to have a number of different groups that he would meet with, an advisory council, things like that. And I don't know why or when that stopped, but I'm pretty certain that it has stopped. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Okay.
We send out a schedule every year of monthly superintendent advisory council meetings.
Okay.
Those meetings are to be held for district-wide concerns that are brought up.
Okay.
If we don't have a district-wide concern, we don't assemble as a group.
Okay.
And so the last one we had was about a year ago, and it was regarding some safety issues where we were clamping down on some safety things within our buildings. We have not got a district-wide concern submitted since that point.
Okay. Well, I apologize if I'm incorrect, but
Now, we do have building-wide committees that are also, so it goes through the building first, because what may be an issue at Fairwood may not be an issue at another building. So we're not going to assemble a group of individuals for the entire district for an issue that is a one building issue. And so those forums take place frequently. We also meet regularly, Mike does, with our labor management group, where we meet with all 4 union presidents on a monthly basis as well.
And also to that point, in regard to the labor relations, I get a little nervous from the standpoint that there are 4 unions, labor unions, in the district, and that, as far as kind of airing out whatever, usually in general needs to come up through that bargaining unit, and that's what we bargain with in the language. And quite frankly, once that contract is done, and I think Mr. Davidson would agree, that's sort of the Bible from how we handle certain situations because we bargain those.
But I don't think Dr. Kopis is proposing having a form that's going to, hey, okay, we'll do this, and that. It's a place for teachers that may want to bring something up to their board members. And it's not to make decisions.
But I haven't heard that from.
Yeah, I have not heard that.
And that's,
I think
shouldn't there be channels? I mean, in any hierarchy, there's channels that don't need to come directly to us. They go through labor relations. I mean, that's.
I don't mind getting down in the weeds and talking to them.
That's not always.
I don't think that's our role, Dave.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I think Joe needs our approval to do it.
Well, the thing is that's interesting to me, it seems as if you, Mr. Davidson, and you, Dr. Cope, it seems like you guys are very fluid on this conversation, but it seems like the 3 of us are not very fluid and up to speed on this conversation. So, I'm just trying to figure out how is it that you guys are so fluid and so, well versed in the conversation, and we have, we're kind of still trying to put the pieces together right now versus you guys. You get what I'm saying? So it's like.
I can tell you right now, I have not, Dr. Kopis asked me today if I'd be interested in details about it. I haven't talked to him about it.
Right.
I mean, and so we shouldn't go down that avenue about.
No, it
communication, because
seems.
There's a lot of things that happened over the last few days that haven't been communicated to the entire board. And so.
That's not what the topic we're talking about
No,
right now.
But, it's not, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stuff.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah, but I'm not throwing any stones at anything. I'm just addressing the issue of
Okay.
the staff form is what I'm talking about.
I'm going to get this meeting back to order. Dr. Kopis,
Yes.
I want you to bring to us at least what your agenda is and what you hope to obtain from having this forum so that we as a group can discuss it. That's
fair. I can certainly do that.
okay.
I would make a comment, though. Or a question, I guess. Does anyone else find it surprising that once in the last year, in the entire district, an issue has been brought to the superintendent?
No, having served on as an administrator in the district, having the ability to talk through the hierarchy, that again, the building level, going to the if things are taken care of appropriately with unions and things, it doesn't need to have a district level because it's already been taken care of.
Okay.
Does that concern you, Joe?
It does, because I think some of the board members here are under the assumption that everyone is perfectly comfortable talking to our administrators. And I can assure you that's not the case.
I would much rather them talk to our administrators because they're the ones that are working with them on a daily basis than bringing a.
I agree with you.
As I said in the last meeting when we discussed this, as an administrator, I would not want a teacher coming to a board member about an issue that I should be taking care of.
I understand that, and I appreciate that, and you may very well be correct, but my point is, that's not the environment that exists in our district right now.
Can I ask a question? Can you bring us, and you don't have to do it in an open, bring us specifics?
Yes.
I mean, specifics, not just hearsay, specifics.
Yes.
Of people that are not comfortable coming to the administration.
Yes.
But at the same time, Joe, let's think this through. We have union representation.
Yes.
And we have those people are able to come to a building rep. Building reps can also bring it to HR, so they can do it in an anonymous manner if there's a real issue that needs to be taken care of. So there are avenues for people to have a say about what's happening, job related and things like that. Not just to an administrator, and I've had union reps come to me and say, "Hey, we've got this issue as an administrator, and I've taken care of it." Again, so there's ways for people to express them. To me, there's ways the people can express themselves instead of jumping over everybody's heads and coming to a board member about an issue.
Because I guess my last comment on this is that we are in, from a board perspective, we hire the superintendent and the treasurer, and we ask them to manage the day in and day out and implement the policies that we approve and make sure that the administrative guidelines are followed. And if in some way that we don't trust them to do that, then why would we have a superintendent?
Are you implying that I don't trust Mr. Holbrook?
I'm not. I'm just saying what you're saying is it sounds that way.
Oh, well, I don't mean it. Then I apologize. I don't mean to make it sound that way. And Mr. Sprague, you're correct. There are ways for people to do that. But what you're ignoring is that people aren't doing that. And that's what I want. Now, I know
And I
you're
can't
sitting there.
control that, Joe, and neither can
Well-
you. So,
But we are at fault if we ignore it. That's how I look at it, and I choose not to ignore it. Now, if this,
I would be, going back to what Mrs. Baker said, I would be very much, if there are specific issues that you are aware of that we can talk about in executive session, I think then that we'll give some credence to that. My thing is, I feel like we have to treat our employees as adults. Adults have to make the decision, and I'm not downplaying all that, but they have to make the decision. There's got to be some, I mean, we have in secondary schools, we have 3 different administrators, at least 3, that they can talk to. In elementaries, they have 2. They have union reps. They can call Katie McAbee hi Katie. They can call her at any time if there's an issue. There's other places to go than coming straight to a board member and express it to a board member in what could be, in this forum, kind of a public, because let's say there is a union thing. I'm just playing this out a little bit, and the union is, and some teacher or someone brings up an issue that Mrs. McAbee hasn't even heard about, and all of a sudden it's in our realm, in the board level. It's not supposed to be that way. It's got to come through the hierarchy, and there's places for people to do that. I'm not sure how else we can do it, but to go to the people that are in charge of those individuals. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that, but I just don't think they need to step over all the administrators' heads to come to us about an issue.
But it might be them telling us good things going on. too.
It might
It's
be.
not- So, I mean,
I'm not-
we assume it's gonna be a gripe session and, you know, how terrible everything is. I mean,
Absolutely, that would give opportunity for a lot of positivity to be able to be shared, and, you know, things and ideas of what one building may be doing, another building may be doing. So absolutely, definitely could lead to those situations happening, for sure, absolutely.
And I don't disagree. Unfortunately, we've gone down this other path, and Joe, by even saying what he said, is that there's issues that people are not happy about. So by definition, it
Right.
almost becomes a negative thing. Because we do have, most people that we have here have been extremely positive. As we all know, we see it each time we're in a meeting, so.
That's human nature. Okay, we will have further discussion, I believe, after, if you can, and Mr. Holbrook is, I guess we need to look at the ruling on executive session of whether we can do that, talk about this discussion for the specifics, which I would think if it's talking about personnel and administrators, that we may want to have Mr. Lampy give us something.
I can try to get
Okay.
an opinion from.
All right. I'm going to make a motion that we move into executive session. Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
yes.
Dr. Kopus?
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews? Mr. Sprague?
Yes.